It's not so much that I need the government to come out and tell me what happened decades ago. It's not so much that I need to know the truth about what happened 20 and 30 years ago, right? It's not so much that I need the government to confirm or debunk my conspiracy theories regarding classified information. It's the fact that it's taking so long to get real information from the government, right? That's the true issue. Because if you look at things that's taken place even within recent years, and there's so much convoluted information that's out in the world right now about what even took place just a few years ago, right? It's that in those crucial moments where you need that information to make a better decision, that information is being denied to you. You're not allowed to have it until 40, 50, 60 years later. That's the issue. I want to say good morning. I've been struggling here lately with a lot of personal things, so I haven't been making videos. So I appreciate my viewers, whoever is still around. But I found something today, and I thought about my life. I grew up hearing some of the same old things regarding our governments and conspiracy theories and everything else. It's like, what can you do about it? We're so podunk and poor. It's not changing anything in your day-to-day life. And my family was always of that mindset. It's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in your immediate personal life. And then 5 years down the road, these events that were occurring came to fruition, and it's like, oh my God, I don't understand why food prices are so high. Why is gas so expensive? And you turn around and you look at them, and it's like, I was telling you about this 5 years ago. And the response is visceral. Well, what was I supposed to do about it then? Well, I don't know. Probably vote better, I guess. I don't know. But it's a little bit of vindication. Isn't even the point at that point. It's not even the fact of I told you so. And in this case, I can't even say that I'm telling you so anyways, because the information could come out and it could vindicate everything that we've been seeing. The point is more that why is it taking 50 years to know the truth about anything that happened in the past? Why is it taking that long? When in those crucial moments, that information could sway someone's decision on a daily basis, right? It could sway your decision, especially like what just recently happened. I think if we had all the information of what just recently took place globally, if we had the information, the correct and accurate and true information, a lot of people probably would have decided differently. That's the point. That has always been the case. But here I've got something for you. And hopefully you'll like it. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Let me know.
For years, presidents have insisted that they've told us everything they could about JFK's assassination, the 9/11 terrorist attack, and COVID-19. Well, in news that should surprise absolutely no one, they were lying to us.
I like how the Aussies. Okay, I gotta say it. I like how the Aussies are like, surprising to no one. Say the quiet part out loud, lady.
us. Governments were keeping the truth hidden in the dark. Now, with President Trump in office, we are finally getting some transparency. Anna Paulina Luna will lead the task force on the declassification of federal secrets. And in her press conference today, she did not hold back declaring that we've been treated like children for too long.
See, this is wild. The fact that we even have to have this conversation, you know, and it's weird that Aussies, you know, Sky News Australia it's on the other side of the globe. It's like we're not lying to Australians, but we are, because America plays on a global market. We play absolutely on a global scale. We play chess on that big of a scale. It's probably what JFK was talking about in his secret society speech and hidden people behind the scenes. You know, we play on a global scale. So yeah, for everybody who might look at this and say, Sky News is in Australia, that has nothing to do with America. It has everything to do with America. You're not willing to admit that, and that's fine. But I mean, look at this. Conspiracy theory. All right, check it out.
This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us.
People can think for themselves.
I don't know. I'm not so sure people can think for themselves anymore. And that's the problem. That's the real crux of the issue. I'm not so sure that at this point, so much information has been kept from us that at this point, even if you gave people true and accurate information and all of the information, they probably wouldn't know what to do with it anymore. That's like trying to navigate corporate America, and you have all the information at your fingertips and how to behave yourself and how to produce your resume and all of these other things. You still have trouble succeeding, correct? You have all of the information of historical antiquity, of how to farm and everything at your fingertips on the internet, where you can research and do for yourself, and people still struggle and don't know what to do. I'm not so sure that people can think for themselves, and that's probably a hairy position to take on the matter. But for 100 years now, you know, we've had classified documents, classified information. I mean, when was the Jekyll Island? Let's see, what was it, 1912? Let's see, not to mislead. 1913, oh my God. We're well past a century now of secret behind the scenes dealings. We're well past 100 years now, and you're telling me that at this point in time you can open the floodgates and people are going to begin to be able to think for themselves. I doubt it. And I'm sorry to have that opinion. I really am. I really am sorry to have that opinion. I'm sorry to insult people, but I don't think you realize the damage that's been caused by this same, look, this same idea, okay? The withholding of information from the population. This has been going on for, I think, as long as people can see written history. I mean, we'll just go off of a century now. You're telling me that this information about who is actually the assassin of John F. Kennedy is going to make a difference. And I'm not saying it's a bad move. I'm not even against it. But no, I don't believe people can just up and think for themselves. I think they've allowed the government to think for them for so long. And now we're complaining about how many people are on the welfare system, SNAP and TANF and Section 8, unemployment, etc. ad nauseum. And we're saying that they can think for themselves. I think they're thinking for themselves, surely. But giving them true and accurate information is... Let me stop rambling about that. Let me go ahead and back up.
What a concept. The truth has been covered up for far too long, and that is about to change. The investigations will look into the assassinations of JFK, RFK and MLK. It'll also look at UAPs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19 and the 9/11 files. Now, the first investigation will be on JFK's assassination, and the head of the task force has just revealed, from what she's seen so far, what she's discovered, she believes there were 2 shooters.
Our first
I don't personally think it matters, in my opinion. Because in the hearts and minds of most Americans, I think they'll always believe that the CIA was behind it in the first place. I don't think it matters how many shooters there were at this point, because you can release... And I think at some point within this video, this gentleman comes out and he makes the same argument, or shares the same sentiment that I have about this. It's like the government can come out and vindicate everything they've already told you, and people will accept it. They'll accept it, and they'll say, oh, okay, well, fine. But in the hearts and minds of the American people, we already know the fact that this was classified in the first place should have never happened. Should not have ever been classified. The American people elected John F. Kennedy. He was shot and killed while in office. I think the American people should have known the absolute immediate truth from the beginning. Period. Plain and simple. No matter who was protected, no matter who was harmed, we're talking about a not just a president, but a man's life was ended that day, right? And the response from the federal government was to say, we need to keep this quiet. Bitch, it happened on live television. it happened in the broad daylight. Keep it quiet. It's already out in the open, But this is what your government is doing to you. We talk about USAID, right? And I've been trying to let people know for years that they're being robbed and they're being taken advantage of by their government. And I kept hearing the same old trope of, don't pay your taxes, see how well that goes. Pay your taxes, see how well that goes. See how well it's been going. See where your money has gone. Okay, well, what am I supposed to do about it? What are you supposed to do about it? What are you supposed to do about it? Don't ask me. I'm supposed to be the idiot who's against paying taxes. Don't ask me what you're supposed to do about it. Ask yourself, what are you supposed to do about it? What can you do about it? You now have the information. They don't have to declassify anything. They don't have to declassify one word for you to now know your government is wrought with corruption. Now take this idea as well into corporate America. Take this idea with you in daily life and realize that 90% of the institutions you encounter are wrought with corruption. There is a behind the scenes going on, a backroom dealing, whether it be with your managers, with your HR, with your nonprofit down the street. There's corruption everywhere. And why is that? Because humans are fallible. Humans are corrupt. And inherently, by nature, the institutions that we build are going to have some level of corruption. But now you get to see the level of corruption in your federal government and what you have been complicit in funding. Sorry if I'm beating you over the head about paying your taxes, but let's be honest, you're funding that. This is what you've been funding for the past 100 years. 100 years. Let's pull it back up. 100 years. 1913 was over a century ago. Wow. We're talking about just the founding of the Federal Reserve. That's it. The Federal Reserve Act in 1913. And you're telling me that just the assassination of John F. Kennedy, what year was that? 1963. (2003) would have been 40, that's 60 years ago. That's 62 years ago. An entire, a grandfather. We're talking about a generation of a grandfather now. I'm 35. A person born in 1963 would be 62 years old. That's how old a man would be. And it's still classified. The entire lifetime of a man is how long this has been classified. I'm just saying, not to run rampant with this, but I mean, in all honesty, declassifying this information, I believe, in my honest opinion, is not going to do very much good or bad. It's not going to matter. There are individuals like myself who have seen the corruption in the government and have been trying to let, friends and family and whoever will listen without considering me to just be that weird hobo-looking guy who has all these government conspiracy theories, that your government's corrupt. I've been trying to let people know that. You've been taken advantage of. You have been, like cows to the slaughter, led by the nose. This is what you get. This is what, and it's sad. I don't, let's just let it play through.
Investigation will be announced, but it's going to be covering on a thorough investigation into the John F. Kennedy assassination. And I can tell you, based on what I've been seeing so far, the initial hearing that was actually held here in Congress was actually faulty in the single bullet theory. I believe that there were 2 shooters, and we should be finding more information as we are able to gain.
Well, that's another one. That's another point right there. The hearing that was held in Congress, I forget what that hearing was called. Let me go look. But we had that same thing happen about 9/11, right? We had the 9/11 Commission itself was, we had a hearing about that, right? There were a lot of things. There's an entire genre of film out right now about the 9/11 conspiracy theory. There's one called The Zeitgeist, where they go through line by line, debunking each text. Look, none of the release of this information is going to make very much of a difference, and I kind of stand by that. But I mean, we're talking about a government that's kept this a secret for, or at least kept the information, all of the information classified. 9/11, the 9/11 Commission was, they were trying to let us know that they knew better than we did, on and on, right? But in truth, I keep interrupting because it's important to do so. None of this is going to make any difference. But here's where it makes a difference, is that you now have the information that your government has been keeping secrets from you. And a lot of people are saying that they're lying. It doesn't matter whether they're lying or not. They're holding information from you that you could make better decisions about your life on a daily basis. I.e., if you say 9/11 was 24 years ago, right? Okay. Well, what does it matter if the government comes out and says, yeah, the CIA or Mossad or whoever else did it? What is it going to matter in your daily life? It's not going to. But it will give you the information that the government lied to you, they're manipulating you, and now fast forward years later, 20 years later, with this global health crisis, we'll say, you might make a different decision within that time frame as you're going through this global health crisis with the cough and sniff. You might have decided, hey, I don't think I want to trust my government on this one. I think the sticky poke is not going to be right for me. And I'm not going to listen to all the screaming heads on the television. You might make a different decision. But, having said, now we have Sky News Australia saying, okay, America's lied for too long. We're going to do something about it. And we're going to post this YouTube video about how America's been lying to the world. Well, here we go. This is what you now have to deal with in Congress.
Access into the SCIF, hopefully before the files are actually released to the public.
John F. Kennedy was riding in a presidential motorcade in Dallas, Texas, when he was shot and killed on November 22, 1963. And after decades of government reluctance to release all of the documents related to his assassination, we are finally getting them. Now, the Warren Commission determined that JFK was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald, who acted alone, but the 1969 report by the US House Select Committee on Assassinations concluded that Kennedy was likely assassinated as a result of a conspiracy. Now, Anna Paulina Luna has said that for years, a certain narrative has been rinsed and repeated in the media without the full truth. And she hopes that all the theories that have been flying around out there will be put to bed.
There's been conflicting evidence, and I think that even the FBI at the time reported some anomalies in the initial autopsy at Bethesda, Maryland. All of those, though, seem to have been rinsed and repeated in the media to push a certain narrative that we don't agree with. And so I think that in order to put to bed some of the theories that have been out there on John F. Kennedy, we have to know the full truth, and the full truth starts with transparency, and that's why these files is so important for the American people to read for themselves.
Finally, it only took 61 years and a president as tough as Donald Trump for us to get here. This is what will be included in the task force, with the hearings expected to start next month.
Based on what we're actually looking to do with the JFK investigation, I'm looking to actually bring in some of the attending physicians at the initial assassination, and then also people that had been on the various commissions looking into, like the Warren Commission looking into the initial assassinations.
Donald Trump followed.
Like I say, I don't think it's going to matter. It's not going to break. It's not going to make or break anything. The truth of the matter is that while all these talking heads on the podium and up in Congress and on your television screen are now saying, "Oh, maybe your government lied to you. Thanks, Donald Trump." It's all a dog and pony show. It's all an act. The world is a stage, as I believe Shakespeare put it. But in truth, it's not going to matter at all. And I keep bringing this up because while this nice young lady is on the television in Australia, and she's telling you that, hey, your federal government's lied to you, it feels good. It feels good. It feels like a win. But it's not going to matter. Now, the act of declassifying this as a president is of importance. Is of importance. And not just simply from a polling perspective. But perhaps it would begin to push back on these institutions that classify stuff out of the gate. It's like, hey, stop classifying stuff. Give the information to the American people. It's not that I want this information about the JFK assassination specifically. It's not that. It's always been, stop withholding information from me. Let me determine and decide for my life. You know, that's always been at least my perspective on the matter. But unfortunately now, it's too late. We have, as I've shown earlier, we have an entire century at this point. An entire century of lies and manipulation. You're telling me how many generations can fit in 100 years? Sorry, I'm not the typist. 3 or 4 generations already. And that's just random numbers right there. We generally figure 3 or 4 generations to every 100 years. In rare instances, only 2, in others 5. So we'll say 3 or 4 generations already since the founding of the Federal Reserve. Okay. Now, we'll say 5 generations since the 1913. Okay, my great-grandmother was born in 1912. So great-grandmother, grandfather, father, me, right? So 4 generations. We'll conservatively say 4. So, I mean, we're talking about a century worth of lies already, and you're expecting people to think for themselves. I don't think this is going to do that, and that's fine. That's fine. That's not what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to eliminate the immediate knee-jerk reaction to classify everything as soon as something happens. For instance, and I don't want to be a new channel immediately in one of my first videos criticizing the response to COVID-19. But I've already said the word. I've already brought the topic up. It's already been played on Sky News. Why should my channel take a hit over it? It's not the fact that I want the correct information about a past event. I want the knee-jerk reaction to stop being to classify everything and remove information from my hands. If I cannot get true and accurate information, but I'm expected to make conscious and good decisions, I don't even know what to call that. What is it, like a psychological test? A shit test? Is that what that's going to be called? I don't know. But the fact that this is even global news to where Sky News Australia is picking it up. We have fucked up so badly in America. Okay, and all of these people saying, if you don't, 4 years ago, we heard BLM talk about how America's racist, is built on the backs of black people, and America's founding, America needs to be torn down, all of its institutions need to be burned, we need to wipe our ass with the Constitution, right? We need to do away with the white man's law, right? And then Cat Williams on his freaking stage at a show screaming at a Mexican man about, if you don't like this place, you need to get out. Get to stepping, I think is what he said. Which is it, man? Are we tearing down the institutional racism, or are you being racist to a Mexican guy? Like, which is it? We don't get the correct information, and people can't think for themselves because it's been a century of not allowing people to think for themselves. I'm 35 years old, and I can honestly say I am the product of this crap going on right now. Let me digress. Let me back out. We'll go ahead and play the rest of this, and you'll make your own decision.
Through with his campaign promise and ordered the declassification and release of secret files on the assassinations of JFK, RFK and MLK in January. Now, since then, the FBI has discovered nearly 2,500 new records relating to JFK's assassination.
This is not a conspiracy theory investigating committee. We're actually looking to present truth to the American people. And it's in my opinion that no one person elected to office is more important or more qualified to look at the information that they've been hiding from us. And so we look to push for that transparency.
Here's Donald Trump speaking about the JFK files during the election campaign.
They called me, a lot of good people called me, people that that you would find reasonable people. And they asked me not to do it. So I said, well, we'll close it for another time. But if I win, I'm going to open them up. I'm just going to open enough time.
Why didn't you open it up the first time?
Because
though?
a lot of times,
what was the hesitation?
Addresses, people that are still living. There are people that are affected. And there could be some national security reason that I don't have to necessarily know about.
Now, this right here is one thing that I kind of do disagree a little bit with Donald Trump about. And this is just personal in that regard. when he talks about not declassifying it the first go-around, his first term, and he's talking about there were addresses and names of people and people that are still living. It's like, well, shouldn't those people be given protection? Should not those people be allowed to be afforded protection when you dump this information? I mean, okay, well, what about it now? What about it now? Those people are still living right now, are they not? Or did a couple of them die? Did they pass away? Did something change other than you got elected to another term? I disagree with his decision. Now, does it matter? Does it really matter? Probably not. Probably not. I'm probably screaming in this mic. But does it really matter? No. Because he's going to declassify it anyways. The second go round. Names, addresses, information, all of this. Well, let us know what that stuff is, or offer those people protection. Okay, redact their addresses. Why should they be doxxed? Just give me their name. Let them come out and speak publicly. They shouldn't have to be. It shouldn't be at this point where. I mean, it's been 60 years. You're telling me they're still living in the same place? Matter of fact, how old are these people? Are we talking about they're in their 80s and 90s? You know? 20, 30 years old in 1962. I mean, and that's just being conservative, right? 1963, somebody 20, 30 years old would be in their 80s and 90s right now. Why would their address and their names matter? Why are these people not in fucking nursing homes at this point? You know what I mean? Okay, fine, let me digress.
But some very good, talented people asked me not to do it. I opened it up, and then they said, would it be possible for us to do that a different day?
How much of it did you read into?
I think it's going to be just fine to open it. Let me put it that way. I think it's fine. It's going to be time. It's a cleansing. It's really a cleansing. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it immediately, almost immediately upon entering office.
And it's interesting, Trump has doubled down on his promise to release records related to former President JFK and RFK, as well as Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassinations. Here is Trump speaking about this.
As a first step toward restoring transparency and accountability to government, we will also reverse the
I do want to say that I 100% agree with his statement about, or his campaign speech right here. He just said, restoring transparency and trust to government. Because it's lost mine. It's lost mine. I do not trust my government. I don't. I literally watched for the latter portion of my life, 20 years, men and women take trip after trip after trip into this desert during a war, only to come back, and many of them to be crapped on. Many of them to be crapped on. Now, I'm not saying that I don't have friends who have succeeded in the route of going to the VA, but there are many individuals who absolutely are homeless trying to deal with them. Like I say, my grandfather spent 30 years fighting the VA to get his medical benefits. And that's an important distinction to make. Trust in government institutions, gone. Look at some of Sean Ryan's work. You know, look at what Tulsi Gabbard and J.D. Vance have been saying about the VA. They're not wrong. These are people who are in a position of congressional authority and governmental authority and oversight, and they still can't get things done with the VA. The IRS forcing you to pay money to file your own taxes when they already have the own data. They have all the information right there. You're supposed to jump through all these hoops. It's like working for a corrupt company. It really is. It's awful. It sucks. It's terrible. Restoring trust in government, that's going to be a long, long effort. That's going to be a very long effort. That's going to take a lot of time. Perhaps, I don't know, 100 years? It might take 100 years for you to absolutely restore my trust in government, or anyone else's for that matter. I mean, that isn't, unless, of course, people are still wearing masks and over-sanitizing their hands. You make up your mind.
Declassification of government documents, and in the coming days, we are going to make public remaining records relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, as well as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and other topics of great public interest. It's all going to be released, Uncle Sam.
It's just amazing to hear him speak about the transparency, and I think that's what...
All right, but realistically, think about it for just a moment. Does it matter? Is it going to change your life? If it comes out and it's found out by the people that the government killed John F. Kennedy, is it going to change anything? I don't think it will really make a difference. I also don't believe that it will restore trust in the government right away. I think, as I've stated just a moment ago, it's going to take at least 100 years for people to trust. And each and every time that something happens and another piece of information is classified, you're going to whittle that trust away more and more. But that's the problem, is that when you get someone like Donald Trump in office who's making these efforts and these strides to say, hey, people don't trust the government anymore, we need to start making efforts towards restoring their trust. That may be a genuine concerted effort on his part to really restore that trust. But that action by nefarious actors is going to be taken, and they're going to song and tap dance right along with it, because if they can restore that trust in government and they can turn it around and use that trust to gain control, they will. What this is going to do is create a power vacuum in some degree. If this restoration of trust is going to be tweaked and manipulated by nefarious actors to be used for their benefit, unless this is really, really, really hardcore, flood the information. Everything that ever happens again, you just flood the world with information, right? But that's probably wrong. I think I'm getting that wrong, but what's gonna take place is eventually that someone's going to come in and they're going to use this restoration of trust to their benefit for their power. The Democratic Party's probably going to do this. I don't see why anybody would have been opposed to the declassification of these files in the first place. You know, oh, names and addresses. We're talking about a man's life who was taken. Yeah, I don't care about names and addresses. We're talking about in 2001, upwards of 3,000 people lost their lives, and you're worried about names and addresses? We built an entire memorial to them, and you're worried about names and addresses? No, I think it's time that the American government, I think it's time that they pay the piper. You know, I think it really is. Because in truth, it's not even about what happened 100, 60, 30, 20, or 4 years ago. It does not even matter. I don't even care about what actually took place. It's about the fact that you betrayed my trust. That's the important part. And you're going to have to take a long time to regain it. And you're going to have to put in effort. So I'm glad that he's declassifying this information. I really am. But look at the impact that our decisions have on the world. Look, they haven't even released the information. These people are saying, they called us conspiracy theorists for saying that it was more than one shooter. It's still conspiracy at this point. Nobody knows they hadn't released anything. Now for the Epstein files, please. Yeah, we've been waiting on that. We're talking about something that is still ongoing. And you know, people want to cling to the JFK assassination. You've already been lied to for decades at this point. But that's all it is. That's what it is. It's a grasp for power. Not on Donald Trump's part. I think this is a genuine move on his part. But it's going to come to a point where somebody's going to use this restoration of trust to gain some type of control. Okay, well, now the American people trust us again. Let's push this agenda. We're still waiting on the real truth about what happened with coronavirus. We're still waiting on the real truth that happened. Where did it come from? Who funded it? You get people up there sitting in front of Congress and lying to the American people. That's not a good thing. But then you want to tell people, okay, let them make up their own minds. Let them decide for themselves. Let them think for themselves. But you've got 100 years. Let's go back to it. I'm going to ride this horse till it dies. You've got 100 years of not letting the American people think for themselves. When people say we're angry about what's been going on, we're literally talking about a century of it. Like I said, my great grandmother was born in 1912. 1912. And I grew up with her. She basically raised me. Remember hearing her tell stories about growing up in the Great Depression in rural Alabama. Yeah. I remember some of that. Not the Great Depression itself, but hearing her tell stories about it. Yeah. No. I don't care about who killed Kennedy. I don't care about who killed Martin Luther King Jr. That's not my concern. My concern is that now it's being exposed that the government has been lying the entire time, and you get to see it firsthand with the USAID. But you want to know what it looks like when people think for themselves? Just get on X or Reddit or Facebook or I think YouTube, maybe Snapchat, whoever you can find that is a leftist that's screaming about Elon Musk. That's what it looks like when you let people think for themselves. You know, because they're not thinking. They're not thinking. And they're going to continue to not think. They're going to look at this declassification of information. They're going to say, oh, well, Trump's a conspiracy theorist. They're not going to look at the information because you've got 100 years of brainwashing people into believing that shit like the Federal Reserve was a good fucking idea when we abolished it 3 times. No, I'm sorry, 2 times at least. There was the... There's too much time that has passed with people growing accustomed to this. So, I don't know. Well, but you see it now. You see it now. It's global news at this point. It's not even America's problems anymore. It's global news. So I'm not even gonna let this play through anymore. Let's do a test. Let's test this theory. I want to hear your thoughts. You think for yourself. Leave your ideas in comments. Give me a like. Share a like, downvote it. I don't care. But I do want to hear you in the comments. Tell me what you think. Because at this point, I don't think that Americans are capable of thinking for themselves. I think they're still waiting on government to think for them. And that's why you see all these talking heads on television saying, I think this is a good thing. I think the American people need to think for themselves. That's why they're the ones telling you their thoughts, just like I'm doing. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Leave a comment.